there's spammers that are trying every tactic, and they're using other people's domains, including possibly people that are listening to this podcast. They're using their domain without them knowing it.
Hey everyone, this is Mark DeGrasse, the president of Digital Marketer. And this is the podcast that keeps you updated on everything you need to know when it comes to digital marketing, from the platforms you'll be focused on to the cutting-edge tactics and tools that are working today. Today, our guest is Big Jason Henderson, the director of Deliverability for Digital Marketer and the other scalable brands. Very excited to have you on the faculty. I know we have a big deliverability issue coming up in February of 2024. And I'm excited to hear what we can do to be in compliance before everything goes kind of nuts. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
All right. So let's just talk about just the basics of what's changing, because I know Google's making some big changes. Yahoo's making some big changes. What does it mean in terms of our emails getting delivered as marketers sending out maybe, millions of emails every month?
Sure. It's basically, they're cracking down. The studies have shown that the majority of emails being delivered to like Gmail, Yahoo, Apple, Microsoft is spam. So they're trying to cut that down and trying to help people at the same time, because, there's spammers that are trying every tactic under the moon, and they're using other people's domains, including possibly people that are listening to this podcast. They're using their domain without them knowing it. And so they're just basically trying to lock down security, authentication, make sure that the emails that should be delivered are delivered, and those that are, from spammers are not.
It sounds simple enough. But they talked about doing this for the last several years, but it hasn't actually impacted a lot. So what's the big difference between, kind of the privacy laws that got enacted a couple of years ago and like now? Are they serious about it? Is that the change?
Yeah, they're really serious. And it's kind of like all of a sudden when you consider rollouts, typically you have, 6 months, year, whatever. Hey, we're going to be doing this. And this was more like, a couple months, like, hey, you've got till February 1st. So as people are watching this, if it's past February 1st, there's a chance that they haven't put the hammer down on some people. You never know who's going to get hit first, who's going to be the example. So there's probably going to be a rollout, but you just don't know when it's going to happen. And all of a sudden, your emails are going to stop being delivered. I do have some slides if you want me to show some examples.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, for everybody listening, we'll kind of describe the slides, but definitely check us out on YouTube, because we'll include the video there.
So, yeah. First of all is DNS authentication. You got to have your DNS records authenticated with your ESP. But here's where people are slipping up, Mark. Everybody that's saying, oh, it's not that big a deal, just follow your ESP, like Aweber, ActiveCampaign, HEAP instructions. So I'm going to show you some examples where it's just not that simple, because think about it. You have your main ESP that's sending out, you're building your list, they're sending out your emails, but you have possibly a WordPress site, you have a membership area, you have a shopping cart, you have a help desk. So you have all these different services that to you, they're good senders. You want the emails on your behalf to be sent, right? And then we have the emails you don't want to be sent on your behalf. So let's just say, for example, there we go. So there's a DMARC fail. That's actually a good thing if someone's trying to email for you without your permission. So Mark, if you want to send an email to your list and I say, let's just say markdegrassi.com. And I try to send an email to my people with mark@markdegrassi.com. You're happy that it failed, right? You don't want that to deliver, someone else emailing you, right? So that's all about DMARC. We want that to fail, and we want your ESP emails, your shopping cart emails, your membership emails, especially your login info to your customers to pass. And then there's SPF and DKIM. So the basics. So here's somebody that thought they were doing okay. They hired me at skills.com. They have an invalid SPF record. And that's because poor documentation. So that's a really big key, is making sure that you document everything And the number one reason that I see that people have SPF errors is because poor documentation. So they have old senders. So email senders, again, like I've been saying, the ESP, the membership site, the shopping cart, they had a bunch of old companies that don't email on their behalf anymore. And you can only have a certain amount, which is 10. They had 11. So here is a simple way you can tell if someone is not authenticated, if someone doesn't meet the requirements that went into effect or are going to be into effect, depending on when you're watching this, February 1st. You never want to see via anything in Gmail on the desktop. It's not going to show on mobile, but on the desktop, if you see via Kartra, via ActiveCampaign, via Infusion Mail, anything like that, that means they're not authenticated properly. Here's another example. That's ActiveCampaign. Here's a good example. Sugar Me Smooth. You got the mailed by and the signed by. Signed by should always be your domain. So if you're using ActiveCampaign, signed by should be markdegrassi.com. It should not be activecampaign.com or the domain they use, acsmn1.com. Then there's mailed by. Now, not every service is going to give you the option to use your own mailed by domain. So here it's send.sugarmesmooth.com. If it says activecampaign.com, that's okay. The big thing is signed by sugarmesmooth.com. So if your domain is there, then you meet the requirements. And then the next requirement is the unsubscribe link, and that's typically handled by your ESP. So you see the unsubscribe link, you're good.
Awesome. Now, I know what happens if you don't have these things. Actually, just in general, because I know we're talking about the consequence. Are you going to be blacklisted or not able to send anything?
You're not going to be blacklisted. You're going to be sent to the spam folder, most likely.
Okay. All right. So it's worse than being blacklisted because at least you know where things are going at that point. But spam is not the place you want to be. Okay. So it's basically like anybody who's not doing this will automatically be put into spam. So harsher spam.
Yep.
Okay.
So basically Gmail and Yahoo and everybody else are basically like, guys, you need to tell us who's authenticated to send email for you and who's not. And if you don't tell us, then we're just going to assume that they're not authorized to send on your behalf. So we're going to send you to spam. So go to your ESP, get on the live chat, put in a contact form and just say, hey, I want to be properly authenticated for the new Google and Gmail requirements. They'll give you a support document, some video tutorials, give it to someone to do for you if you don't know how, but you just got to get it done.
Now, is that the February 1st? Is that a hard deadline, or was it kind of like here's when we're getting started with this stuff?
Yes, some of it is going to be a rollout, and who's going to be hit first is up for debate, So I'm not going to personally take that chance. So I'm authenticated. All my clients are authenticated properly. They've met the requirements. So you're just basically playing Russian roulette on when exactly they're going to start sending you emails to spam if you're not meeting the requirements. Yeah, so this is, to a lot of people, really technical and complicated. Again, your ESP, like in this case for Chris Mercer, Infusionsoft gives you specific copy and paste, step-by-step directions on what you need to do with your DNS. So there's the CNAME records, the text records. Basically, what you need to know is it's basically saying for Chris Mercer at measurementmarketing.io that yes, Infusionsoft Keep is authorized to send email on my behalf. So you got the DKIM, and then you see that bottom line where it says SPF1, V equals SPF1. Yeah, so you got your SPF. That's more related to the IP address of your authorized senders. The DKIM is more related to your domain. And then you have the DMARC record. V equals DMARC1, P equals none. All you need to know about DMARC is it basically works with SPF and DKIM and tells Gmail, Yahoo, Apple, Microsoft, what do you want to do if someone is or isn't authenticated? So P equals none is report only. So there's some free services I can tell you about in a second, but basically it'll give you a report on all the authorized and unauthorized email traffic going through. You want to go from P equals none to P equals quarantine or P equals reject, because P equals none, like I said, it's going to report only. That's why you have the mail to. You're going to put the email address in there. And I'll share some free services that will run those reports for you, because it's kind of complicated, the details they send to you. But basically, P equals quarantine is going to basically say, hey, if you're markdegrassi.com and I try to send as markdegrassi.com, P equals quarantine says, send Jason's emails to spam. He's not authorized to email as me. The P equals reject is don't even deliver the email. So it won't go to spam, won't go to the inbox. It just won't be delivered. That's DMARC.
Hey everyone, I want to quickly interrupt the podcast for a special announcement. If you're listening to this podcast because you want to become a better marketer, then I want to share with you what I believe to be the most comprehensive digital marketing program on the market today. It's called the Digital Marketing Mastery Certification. You'll learn to leverage the tools and channels to predictably and profitably drive awareness, leads, sales, and referrals. Everything you need to know to become a true master of digital marketing. We'll take an in-depth look at the core digital marketing competencies, including content, email, social media, community, digital advertising, data and optimization, and more. After earning your digital marketing strategy certificate, you'll have the tools to effectively reach your target audience through a full scope marketing strategy. Get started today at digitalmarketer.com/strategy cert.
Well, and just so everybody knows, it does sound a little technical and complicated, and you need access to your host and some understanding of DNS records. But it's mainly copy and pasting, right? It's nothing custom or
It's like all the ESPs even have. You just click it and it copies it to your clipboard. It says paste it here, copy this, paste it here, click this button, update. It's very step by step. So here's 3 services that I like. They all offer 2-week free trials, no credit card required. Depending on how many different services you have, if you have 10 different SaaS apps emailing on your behalf, it might take a little bit longer. But a lot of my clients can go from P equals none to P equals reject in 2 weeks. So there's Easy DMARC, Demarcian, and Redshift. Again, they're going to receive those DMARC reports, and they'll be telling you like, hey, you forgot you have a SendGrid account. It's emailing your customer login details. You're like, oops, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Let's make sure we're authentic. They're authorized. Oh, my shopping cart is sending emails. I forgot about that. Let's authorize them. And then you can actually, I've one client, I turned on DMARC for them, and immediately I saw that someone was trying to email as them for a hair loss offer.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You never know.
Yeah, so that's good. So a lot of the stuff is protection for your brand too, not just you're going to go to spam, but people are using your name for stuff you don't know about.
And a big thing is like literally 100% of my clients don't have their Google Workspace domain authenticated properly. So as you see on the screen, they're using ActiveCampaign and they're using Google Workspace. And before I authenticated their Google Workspace domain, all their team member emails, they weren't receiving them because they were already going to spam because they weren't authenticated properly. So you want to have your Google Workspace domain authenticated. And that was Redshift. Here's Redshift again. So if you look on the right-hand side, you can see DMARC fails, SPF, and DKIM. So the new requirements, you don't have to have 100% SPF and 100% DKIM. You can have one or the other, and the emails will still go through. But as you can see for Webinar Jam, and I blurred out the domain name, but it says 0% and 0% for SPF and DKIM. That means it's totally authenticated. That's why 0% compliance in the compliance row. So that means I got to go to the Webinar Jam account for my client and follow Webinar Jam's instructions. Again, I know it seems really complicated, but I'm just going to go to Webinar Jam. I'm going to look at their documentation. They're going to say, yes, if you want to properly authenticate for Webinar Jam to be authorized to send emails on your behalf, step 1, step 2, step 3. So,
well, but it's good to know is that it has to be platform specific. So it's not like you could just fix your hosting situation and then everything's cool. You actually have to go through every single one of these and make sure it's in compliance.
yeah, that's another thing I see. Again, it's the documentation. So a lot of people outsource their tech support, their tech team, and a lot of these guys, they're setting up different services, different SaaSes for like Webinar Jam and their WordPress sites, and they're not documenting anything. And then there's turnover. Then the new tech guy comes along, goes, well, like, what is this stuff? I don't recognize it. And there's no documentation of what's going on. And you just forget that you use these different SaaSes. And that's why you get this free 2-week trial for one of these DMARC reporting services. And it basically tells you got email coming through from these different services. Are they authorized or are they not authorized?
Gotcha. Oh, good to know.
Yeah, the domain that's blurred out, what that tells me 99% of the time, that's probably their WordPress installation. That's probably emailing membership information. So that's not good at 0% compliance.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, it's not even something I did website development. That's nothing I thought about really, because it does.
Right.
I mean, WordPress websites send emails constantly.
So is it pretty clear by now that it's just not simply, oh, you just have to install a few DNS records from your ESP and you're good?
Oh my God. Well, if you think about how many, outsourced platforms that any company uses, I mean, it could be dozens, really, if it's a big company. Oh, that's a big situation. So does it actually dock the entire domain if you don't have all of these in 100% or, near 100% compliance?
Just the source.
Just the source. Okay.
Yeah. So if you had everything authenticated properly, your Active Campaign account, your Google Workspace, your team emails, and it was just Webinar Jam, that was 0% compliance. It would just be the Webinar Jam emails that would be going to spam.
Okay. All right. Well, that's something.
So that's step number 1 is you want to make all of your trusted email sources, your different apps and membership sites and shopping carts, help desk are authenticated. So you're saying, yes, all these people are approved to send emails on my behalf. That's step number 1, not just your ESP. And then we have the new complaint rate, which surprises a lot of people because it's typically always been you want to keep your spam rate below 0.1%. Now they're coming out with a ceiling of try not to go above 0.3%. So
I thought it was 0.5, 0.3, good Lord.
yeah. So this is an outlier. This was not a heavy traffic day, so it wasn't like it was 10,000 emails. I think this day it was more, and this was a paid traffic, a high ticket coach, and it was the sales team. They were a little too aggressive. I think there was only like 10 emails sent, but it was 100%. This is up for debate, but Google and Yahoo, they're not telling you how many days in a row. If you get above 0.3%, they're just telling you try not to hit that on any day. But it's pretty much agreed upon that if you go above 0.3% for one day, and then you're back down to 0.13% or lower, you're probably not going to see an issue. It's probably going to be more like 3 days in a row, 4 days in a row, where they're going to be like, okay, you're just sending a lot of spam. But as you can see, this is a Google Postmaster tool. That's another thing people don't realize is, let's just say you're using Active Campaign and you look at your latest campaigns, you see that you have a 0.1% spam rate. And you think, okay, I'm good. Well, not necessarily, because Gmail is the only email provider that doesn't report spam complaint rates to your ESP. So your ESP is only reporting from Yahoo, Apple, Microsoft, Comcast. Gmail, Gmail is Google, and Google says you got to come to us. So you just got to set up a free Google Postmaster account to monitor your spam complaint rates and your domain and IP reputation. So just search for Google Postmaster tools. It's going to say add your domain. It's probably going to ask you to verify that you own the domain, and then it's going to give you this data, and you just want to stay on top of it and watch for that 0.3%.
Yeah, easy peasy. Don't get 100% spam rate. That's so. But actually, let me ask you this: is it an average? Because any individual email campaign, maybe it's a bad email, and you get 5% spam rate because you tried to trick people with your subject line or something. Is it averaged over like the last few weeks, or how's it work?
They're not saying. That's the whole thing.
Okay, yeah, that's how they would answer that.
Yep. So again, it's definitely not going to be one day. It's going to be over time, where you're averaging like a really high spam complaint rate, and then they're going to be like, okay, that's enough. You're dead. But we're not going to know until some people start reporting like, hey, my client got a 0.5% spam complaint rate for 4 days in a row, and all of a sudden all their emails started going to spam, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So here's Google Postmaster tools. They report on your IP reputation: bad, low, medium, and high. And that's why Google Postmaster tools is important. It tells you this, and it allows you to gauge how well you're doing and how to go from, bad, low, or medium to high. I've had clients, or actually my friend has had clients that never go beyond medium just because they're really aggressive. They're probably going to be less aggressive now after February 1st, but they've been successful at yellow just because they do a lot of paid traffic. They're biz op, but typically my clients, they always get to high. So that's the gold standard. You want to be green on your IP reputation. Here's an example of a client that was bad. They brought me in September, and we got them back to green. And we're going to be talking about that because you have the spam complaint rate, but what we haven't talked about is what leads to a high spam complaint rate, right?
Yep.
Here's a domain reputation that got really bad. So yeah, let's talk about the spam complaint rate. I'm seeing this across the board with all my recent clients. People are emailing really old leads. This is the offer that's gonna, get all those
get them back.
People. Yeah, this is the one, and they keep on going back and back and back, and you can't do that. And here's one of the ways I test the health of a list and see how many people are engaged. This was a list of 10,000. So I did an advanced search. So you can't be using. The gist of it is you can't just be using opens as a sole criteria. Oh, yeah. I have, 8,000 people that have opened within the last 60 days. But what a lot of people don't realize is a lot of those are fake opens now, because of iOS 15. And so you're emailing these old leads that they could be bots, they could be spam traps, like old emails that are not being used by human anymore, but like Gmail keeps them alive just to see if someone's emailing this person, they're not really doing good list management.
Yeah, so like a test.
Yeah. So I did these searches right here. 7,354 out of 10,000 haven't clicked within the last 30 days. 5,865 hadn't clicked within the last 60 days, and just so on and so forth. So this list owner thought they were doing really well. And just by doing these searches, they're just like, holy moly. So we had to tighten up their segmentation. We had to fix their engagement criteria. And the key is you got to find the sweet spot, and it's going to depend. It's kind of like personal training. You don't want a good personal trainer is not going to give the same workout advice to a teenager who wants to play college football and a senior citizen who just wants to increase their flexibility and be able to perform their, fun activities, shuffleboard and stuff like that, right? Same thing here, because let's just take personal development for example. I've done a lot of work in there, and typically when I talk to the list owners, they're like, yeah. So typically when people come to our list or buy our products or just consume the content, they're going through a divorce, a breakup, they lost their job, something traumatic, something happened in their life. So they're like really engaged, and then they get relief and everything's going well for a while. They become less engaged, and then something else happens, or they just want some advice. and then they became engaged again. So that's a lot different than, say, like a BizOp list, who are just looking at news. They're just joining a ton of lists. So you got to find the sweet spot. So, for example, I typically start out with 30-day clickers and 2-week openers. And then you let your list run, send your campaigns for that week, and then you measure engagement. Okay. We averaged about a 42% open rate, 2.9% click-through rate. That's good. All right. So the following month, let's expand that. Let's maybe go 45-day clickers and 30-day openers. Let's see how that is. Okay. We're still averaging about 37% open rate and 2.5% click-through rate. Great. Then you do that for a week. And then the next week, okay, let's expand that to 60-day clickers and 45-day openers. Oh, hold on a second. We just went from the starting average of, what did I say, like 45%, and then we went down to 29% open rate and 1.2% click-through rate. And that's for the week. You don't want to do one campaign and measure it, because that's just not enough data. So I like to go at least a week. So if 60-day clickers and 45-day openers made a drastic difference in lower engagement, then you would dial that back in. And so does that make sense? You're kind of trying to find the sweet spot?
Yeah. That's not just like a hard rule that you just apply and then eliminate everybody below a certain point. You have to actually do the work, test, and then come up with, okay, here's the parameters we need.
Yep.
Easy peasy. Well, I'm going to say probably most listeners are overwhelmed at this point. What would you suggest to somebody who's like, okay, this is more complicated than I thought it was. I now understand that this is probably a serious issue because I don't even know where most of my emails are being sent from that are in my domain name. What would you suggest for hiring somebody to actually do this service for them? Because there's a lot of people who don't want to do this.
Sure. If you don't have a list manager, just go to the Facebook groups or the forums, or just ping the support of your ESP and say, hey, I'm looking for a consultant, and they'll do this for you. No problem.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it feels very systematic. And, could you actually hire somebody and say Upwork or, just go for a project base?
Yep.
Okay. And so how would you phrase that? I need somebody to go into my ESP and make sure I'm compliant with 2024 emailing guidelines.
Yeah, the Gmail and Yahoo guidelines. For sure.
That sounds pretty good.
Yep. So here, what happens when you go too far? Like you're like, no, I think, if they haven't engaged in 120 days, I still might get them for this offer. What happens is they abandon those email accounts, they go dead, and you get the top row hard bounces. Address does not exist. I'm seeing that a lot with a lot of clients. Soft bounces are not so bad. Email account is over quota. You'll get a lot of Comcast, Time Warner people that have that issue. A lot of Gmail users have that issue. Those are not so bad unless you got like 10,000 of them. But you definitely don't want to be emailing hard bounces where the email doesn't exist. And again, if you're emailing old leads, that's not good. Before you do that, before you try measure what's the sweet spot is, you want to clean your list. Here's an example where the spam traps was 420. So again, these are old abandoned email accounts that have been converted into basically spammer detectors. Gmail and Yahoo consider, if you're emailing a spam trap, it means you don't have good practices. The only people that we feel are emailing spam traps are spammers.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
Now, here's the thing about complainers. What I do is I run my clients' list through a cleaning service. I get the results back, and they have designations. Malformed means probably misspelling mistakes, spam traps, complainers, malicious, bots, valid or undeliverable. And I get those designations. I import it back into the ESP. So like Active Campaign, you can import it as a tag. You can import it as a custom field, like a status field, and I do a report. And 9 out of 10 times when I look at the complainers on the list, a lot of them are customers. So don't just arbitrarily get rid of complainers. Check to see who they are, because it could just mean that they complain about actual spammers and jerks in your field, but doesn't necessarily mean they're going to complain about you.
Yeah. Makes sense.
There's another example, 193 bots. These bots are opening all your emails. They're clicking all the links in your emails. They're inflating your results. So you definitely don't want bots. I got a special for the service I use, Clean13. You can see the link on the screen, bemclick.com/clean. They specialize in the internet marketing field. That's why I like them. Most clean services are B2B specialists, but Clean, actually, they're internet marketers like us. So here's the recap. Authenticate your setting domain with DKIM, SPF, and DMARC, not just for your ESP, but for all of your authorized setting sources like shopping cart, membership site, help desk. That's definitely a big one. Don't set up your DMARC record half-ass. Use one of those free reporting services, 2 free week trial, no CC required, easy DMARC, Redshift, or Demartian. Maintain a lower spam complaint rate of 0.3% or lower. Make sure you have Google Postmaster tools set up for your sending domain, because Google does not report to your ESP on spam complaints. Stop emailing old, unengaged leads who just bounce or complain. You don't want a high bounce rate. You don't want a high complaint rate. And then clean your lists. And then email consistently. Gmail, Yahoo, Apple, Microsoft. They don't like it when you have a promotion and you send a ton of email volume and then you stop. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, whoosh, you start emailing
million emails. Makes sense. I think these are actually very straightforward. I don't think there's anything crazy in here. I think people are going to have a hard time letting go of some of those old leads just from a emotional standpoint. But typically they're not gonna buy anyways. So, do more stuff.
Yeah. I put this in for affiliate specific promotions. You want to check your and your partner affiliate link domain for block lists. Yeah, if your affiliate link that you give out and it's got, the referral code in it, that gets put on a block list, and then people email that link, they could be sent to spam, and vice versa. If you're promoting somebody else and their affiliate link, their domain.com/affiliate, and the referral link, your emails could go to spam. So you want to be checking that. The solution for that, a lot of the times, is to use the bridge page. If that happens, if they're a trusted partner, you just don't want to be like your best partner and just say, I'm not going to promote you. You could send your list to a bridge page and then they click the link from there. So that's the solution to that. And then just have a good affiliate terms and conditions and just make them agree not to spam with your affiliate links.
Excellent. Well, this is a great list, and I think it's really straightforward. But I do know that people are probably going to need more help than what we explained here on this podcast. For the more in-depth stuff, what do you recommend people do?
If you're positive you just need DNS installed, you could go to Fiverr, you can go to Upwork, you can ask your ESP, you want a consultant. But if you really want everything optimal, both from a technical level and a campaign performance, engagement, segmentation, re-engagement campaigns, all that good stuff, you can hire me. Email inboxwarrior.com. I still do stuff on the side when I'm not optimizing digital marketers' deliverability. And
excellent.
And yeah, typically I do a 30-day audit. I analyze everything from a technical and a campaign performance side. I take your DMARC record from report only to reject. So make sure all your email sources are authorized and all the non-authorized people are locked out.
Awesome. Well, I will say that, if you are a business that's thinking about doing this, definitely do it. But know that there's a lot of businesses that aren't going to do this. And so a lot of your competitors' stuff is going to be going to spam. Could be a huge opportunity for you to really get serious about email marketing get on the track for the technical aspects of email deliverability. And it's going to be a huge advantage, because I really think that a lot of companies are underestimating just what this impact can be. And, they're hoping that it's not going to be big, or it'll be like some of the other updates where, the world's going to end, and then it doesn't. So you sit down, and this time it might be real. So get ready. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show again, Jason. Always happy to have you. I would love to have you back in a couple months to kind of discuss like, hey, here's the impact that happened, because I think we're going to see people's, email marketing metrics are just going to be a little wonky for a bit. So I'm glad you're out there informing everybody of what's going to happen, and, take this seriously. I think you won't regret it either way, because you're either going to have much more secure emails and you'll have the same email deliverability rate that you have right now, or you're going to avoid having zero deliverability and having your, we all know that it's the highest converting marketing method, not breaking that. Like that's what you got to focus on. So really appreciate your advice on this subject.
Sure, man. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So thank you so much for listening. Be sure to hit that follow button to get notified when all of our new episodes release. Please share this with that friend who's clueless about digital marketing. And don't forget to visit digitalmarketer.com, where you can access all of our courses, certifications, and training programs. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next time.